Hi everyone. Today we're going to do a video lesson. That means all the information is on the video and all you have to do is just take notes along with the video. You should have been provided with a worksheet, so just follow along on the worksheet and use information from the video to fill out the worksheet. I hope you like it. Today's learning target is students will be able to use random samples to make conclusions about a population. Now, I'll try to give you time during the video so that you're able to write down all of the definitions and everything you need to know. If at any time you do not have enough time to write down a definition, just pause the video and that way you have time. First thing we're going to cover is definitions. Our first definition is population. Now, population is an entire group of people or objects. That means it doesn't have to be always people, and it doesn't always have to be things. So it could be 1,000 cell phones, or 200 people, or the entire Earth. It just depends on how big you want your population to be. The next definition after that is sample. Sample is part of the population. That means that we just pick a small group out of our entire population to be our sample. Once again, population is the large, sample is the small portion that we pick out. There are two types of samples. One is a biased sample. That means it's not representative of the population. One or more parts of the population are favored over others. That means that it's not fair from the group we picked. The other type of sample is unbiased sample. This is representative of a population. It is selected at random and is large enough to provide accurate data. That means this is what we want. Whenever we pick out a sample, it should be random and it should be large enough so that we can judge our larger population. Let's try a problem and see if we can find biased and unbiased samples in our options here. The problem says you want to estimate the number of students in a high school who ride a bus to school. Which sample is biased? Which sample is unbiased? Give a reason why each is a good or a bad sample. 4 students in the hallway. 4 students in the hallway is not large enough to provide an accurate data. All students on the soccer team. This is not selected at random. Students on the soccer team might not have the same opinions as the rest of the group. So therefore, this is a biased sample. 50 12th grade students at random. 12th grade students might not ride the bus because they're older, whereas younger students may ride the bus more. So therefore, this is not representative of our entire population, and this is a biased sample. 100 students at random during lunch. This is representative because it is both random and it's unbiased, meaning that it's not picking a particular group and it's large enough to actually look at the entire population. Next, let's practice finding out whether a conclusion is valid. That means we're going to use the sample to determine information about the entire population. So the problem says you want to know how the residents of your town feel about adding a new landfill. Determine whether the conclusion is valid. So you survey 100 residents who live closest to the new landfill. 10 people that say they support the new landfill. So you conclude that 10% of the residents of your town support the new landfill. Is this a valid conclusion? No, this survey is not valid because it's biased. The survey only picks the people that are closest to the landfill. Therefore, people that live farther away from the landfill probably don't care near as much as people who live closest to the landfill. So therefore, this is a biased sample. Let's use the same problem to find out more information about our landfill. So the problem says, you want to know how the residents of your town feel about adding a new landfill. You survey 5 teenagers. 4 out of the 5 teenagers say they support the landfill. So you just conclude that 80% of the residents of your town support the new landfill. Is this conclusion valid? Explain your answer. No, once again, this sample is biased and it's not large enough. So it's biased because it's only picking teenagers. So when you pick teenagers, you're not counting in people that are older. This is also only 5 people. 5 people is not representative of, let's say, a town that's 1,000 or 2,000. So therefore, there's no way that could be representative of our population. Our last sample we're going to look at, we surveyed 100 people at random. And 40 of those residents support the landfill. 60 residents do not support the landfill. So you conclude that 60% of the residents of your town do not support the landfill. Is this conclusion valid? Yes, we finally found a sample that is actually representative of the population. It's unbiased because it's large enough. We're surveying 100 people, and they're all at random without choosing a particular group of people. Next, we're going to look at how to conclude a certain amount of the population wants a certain thing or does a certain thing. So we're going to look at find how many students watch movies during the week. So you ask 75 randomly chosen students at a school how many movies they watch each week. There are 1,200 students in the school, so now we have to estimate the number of students in the school who watch 1 movie each week. The results of our survey say 30 students watch 0 movies. 21 students said they watch 1 movie. And 24 students say they watch 2 or more movies. Now we're going to use this information to estimate how many students in the school watch 1 movie each week. So the way we find our information is we set up proportions. If you remember, 30 students out of 75 said they watched 0 movies. So we set up a proportion, 30 over 75 is equal to N over 1,200. Whereas with 1 movie, we set up our proportion, 21 students out of 75 students is equal to however many of our population over our entire population, which is 1,200. And the last one, 2 or more movies, which is 24 students over 75 students, is equal to however many students out of our population over 1,200 students, which is our population. It's important to show your work on your paper. So when you turn it in, I expect you to show how you cross-multiplied on these problems and set it up like an equation. So we found out that 480 students out of 1,200 watched 0 movies during the week. We found 336 students watched 1 movie during a week. And we found that 384 students watched 2 or more movies during the week. Let's try another problem. How many teachers read 1 book a month? So our sample, you asked 50 teachers randomly how many books they read in a month. 13 of those 50 teachers said they read 1 book a month. You then find out that there are 300 teachers in the schools. Estimate the number of teachers in the schools who read one book a month. So we know 13 out of the 50 people in our sample said they read one book a month. So we set up our proportion. 13 over 50 is equal to so the number we don't know, over 300, which is our population. So the last part of our problem is finding out how many teachers out of the 300 read one book a month. We use our sample to estimate that. So 13 over 50 is equal to n over 300. We cross multiply and set up our equation, and we get that 78 teachers read one book a month. Now I'm going to give you guys a chance to try your own problem. There's a problem written on the door by the calculators by my desk. I want you to get up out of your seat and go over to that door and pull off one of the problems. When you're done with that problem, then I want you to get up out of your seat again and hand it to me in class.